Hi, good morning. My name is Steve Pugh, if we don't know each other, and I basically run a management consultancy company. But I recently launched a product called the Roadmap MBA, which I'll go on to talk about and that kind of thing. But one of the big kind of beliefs is that business education should be accessible to everyone. It should be simple. And actually, one of the big things for me is that you get a lot of business consultants and coaches and stuff out there that kind of all talk the talk. But actually the real value, and even in your kind of textbooks and books and stuff that you buy from Waterstones, is the ability to actually ask real questions of how you can apply that concept to your business. And that is the whole basis behind the live Q&As. So at the start, this is a slightly different format to the interviews, which you might have seen, which I kind of do. This is where I'm going to answer questions that people have asked through the week. Eventually, these might get daily, depending on how many people we kind of get on the platform. But the other thing that we're also going to do is start to introduce you to real people who run the course. We're going to talk about their business, any challenges that they face. And basically in doing so, it's a great way for them to promote their business. But then likewise, almost just to, in real time, solve people's problems that everyone else can learn through. And that, again, that's one of the unique kind of sound points of the Roadmap MBA. So for anyone on the course, this is kind of what it looks like. It's a 216-page textbook. And basically this is to be used in conjunction with the website and all the materials. And there's over 100 videos to go through every single concept. And one of the things that's been really interesting actually is that since in the past 2 weeks, I've started to send out the courses to different people. And basically it's the fact that everyone is always at a different point in their career. There's some people that are ready to take that next step in their business now and they're itching to get started. You've got people that are in the middle of something that want to start it in April. And again, that was one of the things I was very keen to do. And it's why I haven't gone for the whole kind of core cohort term type fixed structure type thing. Because the truth is we all have real lives and real things that we have to work around. So the idea is with the course is that you can pick it up for 2 minutes or 2 hours, go into as much detail as you want. And basically it goes into kind of as much detail as you can imagine in terms of articulating your visions, your goals, your personal brand, all the way through to starting and launching a business, the strategy to make money, how you market it, how you sell it, the whole thing. All the way through to an exit right at the end. So it's a baby that I've worked on for years, if I'm honest, mainly in the past kind of year, all the graphic design, website and stuff. And then likewise, over the next year, you're going to see a lot of further development. And basically the people that are on the course early will get the most kind of interactive one-to-one support. But also we'll kind of go on this journey as well, because I, as many people on the course, are still running and launching my own business. So I'm also quite honest about things to go through and problems that I've faced. And just because, that's what it is. And it's almost the, I like to do this very genuine, hence why this is kind of live. So in terms of questions for the week, I've got them written down. So I think I've covered kind of what is the Roadmap MBA. Basically, it's real world business education for business owners. This is a way to upskill your team to get them to add more value and actually help upskill them to add greater value and make them sell more and stuff without them having to take time out of the business. If you're a solo entrepreneur, it's a great way to find your feet, learn how to run a business, learn how to do strategy and marketing and sales to really kind of get you started. Also, it's someone to kind of ask questions to. And then likewise, if you're a career professional, so you work in a company, I never had it where I had to learn all this stuff from scratch, hundreds of books, all this stuff. So actually just to have all the information you need in one place to help progress your career, boost sales, improve your management skills, that kind of thing. That's the whole kind of premise. I had a question in from someone called Troy, and it was all to do with sales. And his question was, within the roadmap, do we cover both cold approaches, that'd be sales prospecting, and what he classed as warm approaches, which is high value technical selling and stuff? And the answer is yes. What I haven't figured out how to do yet on my live stream, but I've got a plan, is how to screen share. But basically, yes, what we kind of look at, and actually I'm going to draw it out for you, is, so with any sales approach, there's a point where we say hello. So there's a point when we say hello and there's a point when we try and close them. And it's that process to drive sales for any company is basically as simple as that. One of the big things about the Roadmap MBA is that I believe that there's a lot of stuff that you can do before you ever say hello to maximize the impact of your sales approaches. So that includes both what you're trying to achieve, what we're actually trying to do, your branding and your vision and how you actually communicate yourself even down to your something called the ABCD model, which is all about your appearance, behavior, communication, and digital. And then actually how we start to push this out through social media and that kind of thing. So that basically through all of your marketing and everything else, before you ever reach out to say hello for a sales approach, I actually think that you can get someone 50 to 80% away down the buying process to buy and build trust in you before you ever pick up the phone. And that's something which is unique for the Roadmap MBA about how I believe that's something you can do. And we go through the whole process. So in answer, Troy, yes, we do. And then in sales prospecting, we go into everything from how to plan phone calls, what to say, the approaches, where to target, all the way through to techniques, things to get over in terms of mindset and barriers. And in terms of kind of once you're with the client, there's a whole chapter on sales presentations and qualifying and that kind of thing. So in answer, yes, I genuinely believe that we cover everything that you're interested in. So hopefully that's of use. Someone asked me about buy one, gift one. I'm just going to get a drink of water. So basically the buy one, gift one idea is my way to help more people. That this business is predominantly aimed at business owners who run probably businesses 500,000 to 7 million turnover, that kind of range. But there are also a lot of people who've recently started up on their own, or they're in their career, or they're just from a background or community where they can't afford the course on their own, which is, you know, I've been there, I completely understand that. So what I wanted to do was create a guest list, and it's guestlist@roadmapmba.com. And the idea is that anyone can actually apply and get access to a free course, so that if a company buys 5 to upskill their team, we then have 5 to donate. And it's a way to help more people in more communities that otherwise just wouldn't have access to it. The other question that he asked was actually to do with, could he know who that person is? So I've had to think about this, and depending on GDPR, I have to check. So what I'll do is that anyone that applies to the guest list, I'll ask for their permission if they're happy to share, you know, who it was that kind of donated the course. And again, the hope is what we're trying to do is just build a bit of a community here. That, you know, we're all friends, we're on this kind of boat together. So hopefully that's of interest. But the truth is, I don't know, because I'm only 2-3 weeks into this, but we'll learn on this together. And then last but not least, before I jump into Shane, is actually just thank you to everyone that's given me some feedback so far. There's only so much that one person can do in their head. And I must admit, to actually write the book, but do all the graphic design and website and stuff, it's not until you kind of learn to fail fast and get it in other people's hands, you get some really great ideas. So of the about 80 people that I've sent it to so far, had some really, really great stuff back. And the plan is that for version 2, it will be so much better again. And then again, everyone that helps me out in this process will always keep getting free copies. You know, I appreciate your time, and that's how we're going to learn. So that is what we're on, 7 minutes. So that's a quick intro. Shane, sorry I had to wait. But it's that kind of thing that if you have a business question, what we can do is get you on as we're about to do with Shane. We'll talk it through, we'll draw it out. And then that's how we can add more value. And then hopefully if we do this day by day. So hold on 1 second. So Shane, do you want to say hi to everyone?
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. Your sound appeared to work. The reason I'm checking, because I've never done this format before.
It's exciting for me too.
No, cool. So before we jump in, and the one thing that I am conscious of is that with an interview, we go into huge detail on backstories and stuff. With this, because it's all about super quick added value, if we keep the businessy bit quite short, but what we will do, I'll tag you in the post when I put it, and then if people want to connect, they can find out more about who you are and stuff. So do you want to tell people about who you are and what the business is?
So my name is Shane. I am the founder, managing director, and CRO at SalesDriivn. And look, we're a company that builds pipeline for companies that are looking to cut cost, reduce time to market, and really increase performance overall without breaking the bank. So really a lead generation company that does something a little bit different and tries to set the bar just a bit higher.
No, that's cool.
That's us in a nutshell.
We first met when you reached out to me after a live stream. And actually, truth be told, it wasn't that long ago. I'm trying to think.
Maybe it was around the summer, just towards the end of summer, fall. So
See,
around
it's interesting, right? Because actually, yeah, you are right. But I remember I was in this room when because we've spoke a lot since.
Yeah.
And actually, because I only moved into here in November, so actually it kind of been that long ago. But again, this is, you know, but what, you know, I think we've got quite a good relationship, but it's almost where, you know, you haven't been afraid to pick my brains on different stuff.
That's true.
Do you want to tell people a bit more about the business and like your actual structure and how it functions?
So we're a completely remote business. Started last year off the back end of the pandemic, realized that things could be done a lot differently. I was in a old environment where the sales strategy, the sales process was very outdated. No sales technology, no enablement. Everything was just the phone and literally LinkedIn. So I figured, look, there's got to be an easier way. So I started looking at automation, emails, psychographic segmentation, integrated databases, and how you can really couple everything together. And once we started finding out the ins and outs of how everything works, we decided to create a platform that allows companies, B2B companies, to use us to book them qualified meetings. Mm-hmm. So I used to sell lead generation and contact details, and I always frowned upon the value of just a contact detail of somebody's name, job title, and phone number, because the back end of the work is still a lot that goes through. So I figured, why not just give them the meeting? They want the meeting. They call me for the meeting. So why not just give them the meeting, right? And through that's what we kind of alluded to with the business, to have a remote business. We deliver qualified meetings. We save money ourselves. Everything is literally in-house. It's pretty much labor related. And that's really how we brought the business together, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So as a business, like what's your ambition and what's your next biggest hurdle? Because every business has learning curves and stuff, just in case, we can kind of talk through it.
So I would say the next big thing for us is to become the #1 performance sales agency in the UK, right? And I think the challenge of getting there is scalability, how to scale faster without breaking the bank. And more importantly, we figured that the biggest challenge around lead generation is the data, right? And how you utilize data. So a lot of people will put individuals in a bucket of information, a VP of marketing, and think that that's exactly who you go to. But what we've learned is, if you do a lot of the front end work first, if you look at the ideal customer profile, if you look at their behaviors, if you look at the relevance within the market, and then you actually build your data amongst yourselves and within your teams, and then you start attacking the market, that's what we figured is the easiest way to cover that data challenge, right? Because if you have the right data, if you have the right contacts, you're able to penetrate that and achieve a much better result with targeted lists, instead of calling 10,000 people and maybe reaching 2 or 3, right? It's just how we're incorporating it.
Okay, because one of the things that we've spoke about in the past is just, when trying to almost add value to people that might be watching, it was when you're talking about that person persona that you target. Yeah. Again, it depends on your different customers. And then it was almost how, once we understood, because remember you picked my brains about construction. Yes. Once you had that idea about who the person was at the other end, we actually discussed through the good chat up line. Because again, for anyone that's looking to drive sales, and I joke this with everyone, that for me, sales and business development is like chatting up a girl or a boy at the bar, where you need a good opener, you need something to get them on the hook, but you don't, basically, you only get one good shot at it. You can't just approach the same person again tomorrow and stuff. And that's where your approach and your understanding of the customer is so important. So how's business, like what have you got moving forward? Are you then looking to grow the team, or is it a case of it's a sales push at the moment to get customers?
It's a little bit of both, right? So we've taken on a few customers right now, a few clients. So we're kind of approaching that capacity period, and now the team has grown to 8. We have 8 outsourced SDRs. We have a small team in India. A lot of our team is actually in-house in the UK. So right now it's just about how do we assign enough SDR, sales development reps, to each campaign and still produce a result, but still also us be able to manage our own pipeline and managing the clients too. So it's a little bit of both. That's probably the biggest difficulty about running a startup remote business.
Because I'm trying to think this through. So what you've got then is how your business is based on selling value. So it's not based on selling service. So based on what you do and almost looking to scale it, you wouldn't want to pitch it based on, we'll make 50 phone calls a day. Because you have the massive data resource, which is massively valuable, actually the best thing for you to do would be to say, look, we'll get you, and this is what you do, we'll get you 10 leads. And I'd say almost the dream for the business is not necessarily to employ more staff, It's
Yeah,
to get more efficient at finding the leads. Because then
exactly.
the art of any good business is that they might pay you, because one thing we'll touch on, and I'll say this just because we can put the link in the again in the description, that you run a very high value service, but again, it's not
Yeah,
cheap.
yeah,
But
exactly.
then almost because of that, when you understand the customer, it's a chat that we've had, you
Hmm.
then want to focus on very high value targets. So that if your service costs £1,000 per meeting, which a lot of people I work with are SMEs and they'll balk at that. But again, some of the big enterprise companies, that's fine.
Yeah,
So you need to find someone where the value of their sale is so much more than the cost of the unit. And then something else which will also help with your sales approaches would almost be it's to consider the lifetime value of the customer.
yeah.
So for instance, when you're pitching the introduction to the meeting, you might get the meeting for £1,000.
Hmm.
To them, it could be potentially worth probably 50 to 100K, just thinking out loud.
Yeah,
But actually that's per sale. If their average customer lasts for 5 years, that's 250K. So by comparison, it's only 0.5% in terms of business development sales costs for them to get bigger customers.
hmm,
But this is again something you can use, because actually, if you can then understand your customer's marketing mechanism, where in the interview I had last week with Aaron, who's a private equity guy, he talked about
hmm.
the business machine. So if you put in £10,000, what do you get out at the other end? But
Exactly.
in this case, if your qualified meetings cost £1,000,
Hmm.
but could potentially lead to lifetime revenue of £250,000 over 5 years, if they put £10,000 in, that could be 1,200, £1.2 million worth of work. Almost your sale to your customers
Hmm.
could be that very, almost use the business mechanism thing as a good sales approach,
Yeah.
because it helps drive their sales pipeline. And everyone about their own business is always interested in how do they get more sales? How do they, completely selfishly for their own interests, how do they do
Hmm.
well? So actually,
Exactly.
if you can ever figure out how you can do that for them, that's a great way to do that.
It definitely is. One thing that we try to emphasize is how quickly we can connect with them, right?
Yeah.
Connect with their prospects. So obviously the value of data is one thing, but there's what 80% of all data platforms in the market right now are all pretty much the same. Most of them pull data from 125 of the same sources. So it's that connectivity which is the biggest challenge. And what we bring to them too is not only are we bringing that value for them and the outcome, we're also bringing a way to actually engage that audience with predictive auto dialing, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of a team that would spend hours on the phone dialing 100 people a day, we're dialing 800 people a day and having 70 conversations a day and booking 7 meetings a day. And that's, again, it just comes down to the technology. So I think it's always how is your customer best utilizing their spend with you to generate a maximum profit.
Yeah,
And
agree.
I think that's one of the things that we like to focus on too.
Because then I'm just thinking out loud again, is that part of your sales message when you're approaching customers is that these bigger companies inherently pay higher paid, better skilled salespeople. But actually, it could be that their salesperson's on 50K a year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Easy. But the point is then they will have an idea and a cost metric on that. All of that person's costs to the business would probably be 70 to 80K once you add in pension and insurance and computer and overheads and everything else, holiday
Training,
pay.
admin.
But so then for that investment that the company makes, they have to work out their output. And then likewise, my wife's an employment solicitor, but there's also barriers on, if it doesn't work out, there's recruitment costs, there's lots to it. You
Mm-hmm.
almost can justify yourself when you're looking at your competitors against full-time employees. I apologize, our lights have gone off. But anyway, I'm going to carry on. This is live. Um, but it's a great way to really know who you compete against, because actually, if your average salesperson on 50K delivers 100 meetings a year, but actually you can do that for half the price. I'm just thinking out loud. That's a
Yeah.
great sales message.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very conscious that my lights have gone off. So this has kind of gone to pot a little bit. Obviously, I've still got some of them. One of the things that in the post today, you should be getting your pack. So actually, if people haven't seen it, you get your textbook. But actually, You get a whole nice little pack with the box, and there's lots of different flyers and stuff in it. And actually, Shane, yours is arriving today.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think would be really useful, and actually with James, who's one of my other customers who's based out of Sheffield, we talked through last week, is actually everyone always has really big ambitious goals that they want to work towards and build towards. And so do I. And that's cool. That's great. But actually what's always quite useful is almost just to have, in the book I call them lead actions, but just something. So by this time next week, you've made progress. Is there anything that you think that you can achieve within the next week that will just help you move your business a little bit further forward?
Well, based on lead actions, which is probably one of the most valuable words or phrases I've taken from the roadmap. Me, it's always activity. In sales, it's activity. The lead actions of activity, of actually being on the phone and being glued to your phone for an hour or 2 hours in a day, right? Committing to those, dialing those numbers, having those conversations. Obviously, we have technology that does it for us, but that activity is what our lead actions consist of, because enough of that lead action, let's say $4,000 in a month, that will create enough opportunities that will convert into will convert from pipeline into revenue.
Because what's interesting is actually that with your anyway, for people that come on the course, you'll learn what lead actions are, and actually if they're quite useful. But it's when I actually think that the sales aspects of what you do, you'll have nailed, because that's your core business. You'll be great at that. One of the daily chapters is all about personal branding, and I mentioned it before, the ABCD model. Is that because inherently you approach a lot of enterprise grade customers, and a lot of decision makers, I imagine the people that you directly sell to are probably on tradition white males, probably in their 50s. Just one of the things to bear in mind, and again we cover it in the course, is actually it's the ability to almost be a chameleon and change your dress and your appearance to match and mirror the person you communicate with. Because actually what it does, it will just help build trust. I think that alone, even if you made no other changes, will help you convert more customers into paying customers from your own leads. If you dress and match, probably how I do, but almost with a share. And it's not, this isn't to be disingenuous to you, but if the person on the other end has the perception of, I like this person, they're similar to me, the truth is you'll actually convert more sales. So it's one of these little things that just when the pack arrives today, because I sent it first class yesterday, so it should do, just have a flick through, and it's that consideration of that kind of point, that even if you only did it for certain clients, or if you know the person you're going to speak to, but then again, maybe if it's a tech thing, stick with the t-shirt, that's your kind of call. But it's all these little things do add up over time, that if someone's perception on, I could work with that person, I like that.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. I feel like also if we're in the finance sector, or if we're in the legal sector, or we're working against, look, if I'm speaking to a Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 C level executive, I'm not going to say the CEO, that would be a long shot, but the presentation on that is going to be very, very different. It's going to be very, very different.
Because what I also find funny is that I was on the phone to a London-based consultancy firm yesterday who do engineering design.
Okay.
And it's it's the fact that with every business has its own challenges. So for instance, they really struggle with the sales approach, the cold approach, what to do, is it the right thing to do? And then likewise, not everyone has the stones to do it, because it's not always a nice thing to do. And again, I love being able to understand where different people's pain points are. And yours isn't in sales, it's not in the patter, but actually if the more we can do to both make sure we get the strategy right around the business so that you're as profitable as you grow. And then all the little things about how maybe the backstory on the customer, the branding, the marketing to get you more leads. Because one of the big things I mentioned about it's in the book, and actually have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Me, of course I have.
Of course I have. So Jordan Belford, who's in the book, and again, his book of the same name, talks about how you want to get people to 10 out of 10 in terms of sales. So
straight line selling, right?
So straight line sales system. But this is the big thing, is that, so what he talks about is how when you pick up the phone, you need to come across and get all your techniques across and really make a great impact to get someone so they're of complete confidence in you, your product or sale. So obviously you get the concept where you're trying to get them from 5 to a 10.
Yeah.
one of the big things that again is in the roadmap that I've never seen anyone else talk about before is actually I believe that your marketing, your personal brand, and all of the other stuff actually gets you to the 5 before you even pick up the phone. And the better your marketing and your branding and your live streams and people just get a feel for who you are. I know there's people that I haven't approached yet in terms of sales, but they're already probably at a 7 or an 8. So actually it's easier for me to convert. But actually because of this, and it goes out to lots of people, you can get thousands and thousands of people gradually moving along your sales process if you consider the real value in your PR, your marketing and stuff to let people get a feel for you. So that's something that we can work on over time. We don't have to solve it all in 1 week.
But I have seen that, and I've seen that that's been a challenge. We've helped a few of our clients with right now, and it's them not having experience in their outbound strategy. It's a lot of companies that have worked before the pandemic on existing relationships, referrals. So when it came down to this period of when a lot of people, maybe their inbound strategy isn't as strong, they have to get on the phone. And when you're 40, 50 years old, maybe you don't want to do that, right? So, and that's when we come in and we try to help that. But more importantly, one of the biggest things that we've seen is a lot of companies need to be repositioning their brand, right? They're outdated in a sense, and building that value proposition to go cold to the market is becoming an anomaly for some people. So at first, it was one thing that you mentioned to us, and it's when you are designing your products, when you are designing your brand and your company, you will have to pivot a lot of times to accompany different types of companies. And we've seen about 6 or 7 different pivots in the past 4 or 5 months, and that's based on getting into bed with somebody, working on their strategy, and then saying, "Hey, look, can you design our value prop? Can you design our cold call scripts? Can you design our email strategy?" And our service went from qualified meetings to repositioning your brand, value proposition, outbound strategy, playbooks. So just on that point alone, it is a massive, massive thing to be considering.
Because just to throw this out there again, is that one of the things that I was very conscious when I was launching the roadmap is that I did all the economics on the maths, lights back on, about how almost use it itself as a sales tool, because actually this in itself is scalable and all the content's on the website. But actually what you're doing is very similar for a different section of the market. But you could also consider doing something yourself that actually creates something, whatever that thing is. You can then send it proactively to clients. And then what it does, it just stands you out against everyone else that does that, that actually it shows that you know what you're talking about. And again, the more you can add value and listen. So one of the big things about high value technical selling is listening to the customer, really listen what their problems are, not just, brain dumping, buy this, buy this.
Yeah.
But actually you have a lot of knowledge and IP that could be an additional revenue stream to run alongside the core business that you could run. Because again, one of the big things, say for mine, is that, where are we? So my consultancy makes up, the fair chunk of my revenue at the moment. But the 2 other things which are starting to grow is both investing in scalable businesses. So I give time for causes that I think might grow. But again, that is exponential of me. It doesn't take more time and that kind of thing. And then the other one with the training course is further still. It's a thing that I can send out in theory 1 million copies, do the live streams, do the Q&As, add the value, but it's a way to build the business model. But you could do exactly the same, where you have your core service offer, but then actually, and I often talk about this, it's called the ecosystem. So you build the funnel. Actually, I'll draw it.
Yeah, I remember that.
So right at the very top, and this might be useful, people might not have seen this before, is that you would have your free value proposition, your free offer. For me, it's YouTube, it's the live streams, it's this. I'll be honest, it's a way to gain knowledge. You don't have to pay for it, but you kind of get a feel for me and stuff. Then you're going to have the lower priced entry point, which could be, in the past, I've sold the books individually. Then slightly more expensive, you've got the kind of business course at like £300-400. But then actually, if you want to hire me to actually do the work and the sales calls and stuff for you, sorry, they're meant to be pound signs, but that's the high value end of the service. But the point is you create the ecosystem. So this might be what pays your wages as you start to grow, but actually you might work 50 hours a week on that. But the more you can build in the other parts of your offer, it's all going to help long term. And I think often a lot of people, they don't think about this and the value that they probably have. They only think about, I want to launch an app, but it's never going to drive enough money to live off. And that's where you really need to think about the ecosystem around your whole business, just to kind of make it work. And actually, I've got a few people in mind that we'll talk through. We'll save that for another call with someone else. But it's these little things, just is to spark an idea that if someone's starting a business or starting a side hustle, actually starting to think through, what do I need to consider? What do I need to do to actually make any money? And that's where the roadmap comes in. Cool. Well, Shane, that's half an hour. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We'll stay in touch. And basically what will be interesting is that when the pack arrives over time, you know, we'll keep getting you back on. We'll learn how things have developed. We'll keep talking things through. And again, I think that for a lot of people is that so much of this is to do with credibility and trust. But actually, when you have other people talking to them who've gone through the process, for one, it's a social proof thing, which again is great. And we'll touch on that in future kind of live streams. But actually, when they see the benefit to other people, it builds trust that they can do it too. So cool. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm sure we'll stay in touch soon. If this was useful, please, send me the questions. It's questions@roadmapmba.com. Again, this is only week 3 of kind of launching the business, starting to get into people's hands. And again, for me, this is a 10-year marathon. The way I almost thought about it this morning is that I feel a bit like an athlete with 2 Olympics ahead of me. I'm currently training for my first Olympics. Then there's the London's the other. That's the time period that I'm trying to build this over. So I'm not trying to rush. I'm trying to learn the lessons, get my own place where the lighting doesn't come out, that kind of thing. But this is the real world stuff. That it's just it is what it is. We carry on.
Yeah.
And cool. Well, cheers, boss. Stay in touch, and I'm sure I'll speak to you soon.
Steve. It was an absolute pleasure, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Cheers, mate. Bye.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.